Good morning, my friends. DW, Pastor Barry here, sitting at the general's desk. Hope you like my little painting in New York City. I think it was a Father's Day gift a few years ago, but I never really make mention of it. Still got my ugly Christmas lights. I got to take those down. They don't work anymore. I have to replace them. Just one more thing to add to my to-do list. But anyway, I'm in the King James Amplified Bible today. We're going to read some King James Go. Let me get my eyes on here. Go to Matthew chapter 2. We're going to read the first 11 verses there in this daily Guideposts Devotional from 1982. This is January the 13th. And this one, actually, the reason I knew where to read is because even though these have no titles, it's got the verse right there, the verse reference. All right. I'm going to have to tape this together so I don't have to keep holding it. But anyway, when the Bible speaks to me, Matthew 2, 1 through 11. Let's read in the King James. Hopefully you got your Bible with you. Hopefully you're following along. It says, "Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him." Why were they troubled? Because there was another king mentioned, and they had King Herod. He wasn't even a Jew. He was a puppet of the Romans. He was from a neighboring country. He wasn't even Jewish. And that's why they were troubled. Verse 4, "And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born." So he asked people who should have known the Bible. They had to look through their scrolls, look through the prophets. "And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not thou the least among the princes of Judah? For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel." That's speaking of the 1,000-year reign of Christ, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. That's when he's coming back after tribulation, Matthew 24, and he's coming to establish his 1,000-year reign. That's when this will be fulfilled. All right. "Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when you have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also." Total balderdash, and God called him out on it later when he told the wise men. All right. "When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy." Verse 11, "And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense, and myrrh." And those things were to be used or sold for the time when Jesus and his family had to move to Egypt for several years. And of course, Joseph was a carpenter. There was always room for a carpenter in his work, so he would have had a really good trade and been able to do that. But those gifts were precious. They represent, of course, some different things. All right, our author says, "My middle name is Balthazar. It was my grandfather's name, but most famously, it was the name of one of the 3 kings of the Epiphany." I didn't know that. 3 kings? How do you know there were only 3? Doesn't say that. "I have to admit that as a child, I used to think the journey of the Magi was just a good story. That Balthazar was a colorful character bearing exotic things. As I've grown older, though, the 2nd chapter of Matthew has become deeply important to me. The verses about the coming of the wise men are no longer make-believe. What was Balthazar feeling as he was led by a mysterious light on his way to Bethlehem? Bewildered? Enthralled? And when he came upon this nativity of mysterious peace and power, surely Balthazar knew he was in the presence of God. Now, it wasn't the nativity scene. The wise men weren't there for that. Jesus was already over a year old, close to 2. That's why Herod had to kill the babies 2 years and younger. If he was just a newborn, Herod wouldn't have done that. The wise men were not there on the night Jesus was born. People get that misconstrued. But anyway, I'm trying not to burst your Christmas bubble here, but that's the truth of it. He knew he was in the presence of God. He fell to his knees, then offered his treasures. True, this was just a child, but a child more radiant than any man Balthazar had ever known. Epiphany was a miracle for Balthasar, and the verses describing it have become a small miracle for me too. They have become a door for me, my first true entrance into the life of Christ. You see, I'm a young man just out of college, and I can't pretend to know fully the mature Christ of the 40 days in the desert or the Christ of Gethsemane. I simply haven't lived enough days. The wonders of life are still often bewildering. Many trials still await me, but I can be like my namesake by making the journey to the Holy Child and offering him what treasures I have. And in this way, I am growing as he grows. Edward B. Pitt, it's Pitoniak. Pitoniak was the author of that one. Usually doesn't put the author, so that's interesting. All right. Thank you for tuning in with me. Maybe you learned something new today. I like popping bubbles of bad teaching from the Bible. One of my favorite things to do, actually. I need to do it more. Bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Share the video around. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you've not yet done that. And I'll see you in the next Daily Guidepost Devotional from 1982.